you can create something that you do not see yet. And I think if you mix both of those together, eventually you'll get a lot of results you didn't see coming, but you might also feel a lot of the ways that you hope to feel.
One person looks at the top, climbs the whole damn thing, is like, holy crap, this is even better than I thought, or harder than I thought, or whatever. The other person is just going from peak to peak to peak to peak to peak, and eventually they look back and go, holy crap, this is so far beyond my wildest dreams.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode. It was a giggly episode. Episode number 1515, juggling short-term and long-term, and pizza bagels, and pogs, and Pokemon cards. Today, for episode number 1516, seeing is believing might be holding you back. Alan and I have done many episodes on the importance of belief. And I know for a lot of us, definitely 1000% me in the beginning, it was very hard for me to believe something if I didn't see it. It was very important for me to experience something to realize that it actually was possible. And I think that's why a lot of us end up getting stuck, because we set goals that we actually do not believe are possible, and we never see the results of those goals, so it never locks in the fact that we should believe in the first place. So Alan and I, you've heard us say this so many times, yes, I think it's noble to have giant goals that scare the crap out of you. Sure. If you're the type of person that finds benefit in that. But I would much rather you say, okay, let's just say seeing is believing for me, and I need to see results in order to believe that I'm capable of furthering those results. It would be very beneficial for you to set smaller goals or change your goals. But it would be very beneficial to say, okay, well, what do I actually believe I could see? And then set goals that way, get some level of that goal, get some level of result, and then be able to reset goals. That's kind of where I want to go in this episode. I know Alan has a specific story, but I would ask two questions to start. One, do you find yourself saying seeing is believing, aka maybe you don't have a super high level of self-belief, and when you do something, it locks in the fact that that's actually humanly possible? Or maybe you're on the other end, where for you, you know if you believe it for long enough, eventually you'll be able to create the thing and you'll be able to see it. I was definitely person A for a long time. Now I feel closer to version B. I know Alan's mostly felt like version B or person B. So that's where we'll start today.
And you can't give advice to person B for person A and vice versa. In other words, Kevin and I are constantly assessing this. The advice that you give, the guidance that you give, needs to be customized to the individual. And that's why on the podcast, we often talk about both sides of the coin. We call it a drive to 5. We call it duality. We always try to give both sides of the equation so that you can choose which side you're on and then what advice you take. And so I'm on with a client, and this is last week, and this is a client that I've been coaching for many years, and the longer I coach with someone, the more I get to know them at a deeper and deeper level, and the higher the levels they climb, the levels of success. This person's been crushing it, new job, full-time career, many of her dreams she's achieved. And one of the dreams that she has not yet achieved is her dream relationship. So she has her dream career now, she has her dream body, but she doesn't have her dream relationship. And she's having trouble, and we had an honest conversation, as we do on my coaching. I'm always trying to help people think as accurately as possible. And she said, I don't know if I believe it's possible. The type of person that I want to be with, the dream partner that I want to be with, the list that I have of boxes to check, so to speak. I don't know if they exist anymore. I don't know if I still believe. And we had an honest conversation about it, and ultimately I said this. I said, whether this person is out there or not, you have a choice. You have a choice. You can choose to have faith, which is belief in something you can't see yet, or you can lower the target and climb the ladder. I said, my honest perspective, and again, I'm not all knowing, but this is my honest perspective. I believe that your person that you're referring to exists, but I believe it's going to come in a different package than you think. And what I mean by that is it's not going to look exactly the way you thought it would. Emilia is my dream partner by far above my wildest dreams, but it didn't come in the package that I thought it would. And this person has a phone background of her dream partner, and it's really cute, actually. It's this person and her wife, and they're on the beach, and they have a child that they've adopted or had together, and it's like this really cute photo, and it's a vision board phone background. And I said, you can choose to believe that that is possible and possible for you, and that you're going to work hard to achieve it, and that comes with being alone until, aka not settling for any less than that. Or you can choose to, and that risks being alone. That risks being alone for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I don't know how long it will take to find this person, right, that checks all of those boxes. Or you can say, you know what? I'm not sure this person's out there, so let me loosen up a little bit on my standards. Let me explore and see if someone else might be out there that maybe doesn't look this exact way or act this exact way. And so that's kind of what this episode is you have a choice. Your dream might be possible, and it's a risk. It's a genuine risk to assume that it's possible. It is. Kevin and I are trying to have the most positively impactful holistic self-improvement podcast in the world. Is it possible that we're delusional and that never happens? Yes, that's possible. I don't believe that, obviously. Fortunately, Kevin doesn't believe that. But we could be wrong. We're not all knowing. It's possible to be wrong. And I'm not even kidding. I actually do hold that duality. I really do. I don't think we're wrong, but I do know it's possible that we are. But here's the thing. I would rather go for that and fail than not go for that at all. And so this person had a choice. And so I think that that's really what we're coming down to here is you can choose to believe it before you see it and take that risk of being alone and maybe regretting it if you never find her. Or you can lower the target. You can lower your standards and explore. And you might be pleasantly surprised. And my truth is, it's probably going to come in a package different than your picture-perfect background. But I also am grateful you have that picture-perfect background. I'm just saying, don't be too closed or too open. Too open means you'll settle for anything. It doesn't matter who it is. Too closed is you'll never settle no matter what unless it checks every box. And that's a quick way to end up alone forever. So you just got to kind of figure this out for yourself.
I don't think anything really comes in the package you expect. I don't think anything is what you expect, because if you don't have enough, you can't really have the awareness until you see it. In a way,
we didn't expect this.
Yeah,
like you and I being business partners.
Yeah,
when we were in high school. You hated me.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a huge fan. Middle school, I loved you though.
Was it because I had a Razor scooter that was better than yours?
No, you probably did though. You had snowmobiles and stuff. I didn't have any of that.
It's a fair assessment.
My mom, I remember all I wanted was a dirt bike. I just wanted a dirt bike. I never got a dirt bike. I was devastated.
Still time.
I'm going to have one. Trust me. Of course. I have to have one now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I needed some off-road vehicles. What was I going to say? Who knows? We've been all over the place this week. Just talking about pizza bagels and Pokemon and Pogs and off-road vehicles and...
Oh, this came in a different package. Because you were talking about how things will come in a different package than you expected because your awareness, you don't know until you know.
It's okay. Seeing is believing is what we're talking about. But you can believe, you can create something that you do not see yet. And I think if you mix both of those together, eventually you'll get a lot of results you didn't see coming, but you might also feel a lot of the ways that you hope to feel. Right now, I'm the most fulfilled, the most happy, and the most holistically quote-unquote successful. But most of the stuff that created that, I had no idea it was going to happen. I didn't know Taryn and I were going to be together. I didn't know Alan and I were going to be together as business partners. I didn't know a lot of the things. I didn't know where I was going to live. I didn't know the business. I didn't know all of that stuff, the way that was going to end up. But the result I feel is what I wanted. The journey
What
was
did you know?
drastically different.
Because I have that moment too of, I didn't know Emilia and I. This is beyond what I anticipated for sure. I didn't know you and I would be business partners. It's almost like the true north I knew, but everything along the climb was fluid.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily know podcasting was going to be the vehicle. I thought I was going to be a speaker. Like, I saw Tony Robbins' TED Talk, and I thought I'd be a speaker like that. He's never been primarily a podcaster. And then eventually it was like, I gotta stop saying like. It was, I remember my coach at the time, he said, name all your dreams. I've told this story. And podcaster was one of them. Professional athlete, fitness model, all my dreams. List, boom, boom, boom. And he said, okay, if you could only do one, what would it be? And I said, no, I'm going to do them all. Now I definitely understand what he was saying. He said, no, just bear with me. I said, podcasting. He said, why? I said, it's where I'm having the most impact, and I don't have to ask someone to go practice speaking. Whereas before, I had to go give speeches at different schools and get administrators to see my value. It was hard for me to put in the practice because I couldn't just go to the gym whenever I wanted, so to speak, in this analogy. Whereas with podcasting, it was Kevin and I could just practice every time we want. So the vehicle, a lot of the stuff is different than I originally thought, but the true north never changed.
That makes sense.
So I kind of had the top of the mountain mapped out, and then the bottom, I knew where I was. And I just was like, okay, we're going to get to the top of this thing no matter how long it takes. And yes, it's taking longer than I thought.
Seeing if you just did what you could currently see, and that was it. Say, for me, it was podcasting. I could see podcasting. I did podcasting. Cool. Awesome. If you do what you can just see long enough, and you occasionally do something you don't necessarily believe yet, I would argue that might be a good recipe for a larger level of success.
Yeah.
It's almost like that's what your coach was saying. Pick one. That's one you can see?
He said if you go all in on that one, podcasting, you can have all the rest. Yeah. And he was absolutely right about that. Great coach.
Same thing. Podcast now led to, I told Alan, I said, I'm so grateful. I feel really good. I'm fulfilled. I'm happy. I'm so grateful that I could sign up to jiu-jitsu and not worry it's $160 a month. Martial arts gyms are expensive. I remember when that was a bucket list thing for me. And I didn't have to say, oh, you know what, I can't afford that. I'll have to wait a couple of years or whatever it may be. But that's a result of the podcast. It's because of the podcast.
We're paying for the Mazda. It's a car payment.
That is a car payment. Yeah. But that's because of the podcast. The rapping, I would never have gotten back into rap to the level I did if I didn't have all the equipment I needed to have a podcast. Never would have rapped. One of my favorite, I posted this on my story the other day, one of my favorite songs versus rap experiences I've ever had. I rapped with Eddie Pinero of Your World Within when we were down in Florida. That never would have happened because we had him as a guest on the podcast. Mm-hmm. Never would have found Justin Freeman, who is one of my most favorite guests we've ever interviewed. He's a rapper. That inspired me to get back into rap. I probably never would have gone back to jiu-jitsu because we never would have interviewed Julian Wynn, who had a martial arts gym in Worcester that brought me back into the gym for the first time ever, and I did a few sessions there.
And that's where Bianca met Emilia.
Right.
Emilia was at that gym, Muay Thai. Yep.
So
it's fascinating looking back. It's easy to connect the knots. The knots. It's easy to connect the dots looking backwards. It's hard to connect the dots looking forwards.
That's what you sound like to me, sir.
That's what I sound like tonight, for sure.
Hello, my name's Eddie Pinero. I'm the founder of Your World Within, and I wanted to take a second and just express how valuable working with Alan has been. His ability to help me create clarity and maintain focus on my big picture goals has been huge. He's been a huge asset with the roadmap as well. The day-to-day things, the little things that we sometimes overlook. I think anyone looking to, grow themselves, grow a business or both, would truly benefit from having Alan as an ally along the way. Again, great mind, but more importantly, solid dude.
That is going off of what I could see. That's all I could really see is we got an episode next week. Okay, oh, cool, we got a big guest coming up in a month. A lot of this other stuff is completely unexpected. I won't say completely unplanned for, because I'm sure you were planning for it in many ways. I did an episode on Podcast Growth U recently, and I'll make sure it's relevant to you. I was talking about the top 5 lessons I've learned from hosting over 1,500 episodes. And one of the lessons was the podcast success is directly connected to what you do with the momentum you have of the podcast. AKA, most of the success of your podcast is not going to be because you were on the microphones. It's going to be all the stuff that happens around.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing I could see for the longest. So for you, it's probably going to be this thing that you see that you do the most consistently is also going to create most of the belief you have, and it's going to create most of the opportunities you have. Let's just say you see the fact that you want to... I'm trying to think of a good example. I always do the dog shelter. Let's just do it. You see the fact that you want to do a dog shelter. You've always had a soft spot for animals. You're very heart-driven. You love animals. You want to take care of them. So you go to the library and you buy a book on charities, whatever it is. And you meet someone there that you've never met before, and that person becomes a friend. Awesome, you got a new friend. Then you go to a class on small businesses, how to start your own small business. And you meet someone there that ends up working at the dog shelter with you. And then 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, this dog shelter has been the one through line of this entire thing, the thing that you could see most, but it has almost what's the word? It's almost unveiled a bunch of other things that you just didn't see were there. Mm-hmm. They're on the outskirts of the dream that you're chasing. They're there. They're just not on the direct path, but they're right there. They're right off. That is how I think of it. The podcast for us has been the through line, but everything else has just been, it's kind of a roadside attraction. Oh, cool. I'm going to speak here. I never thought that was going to happen. All right, cool. I'm going to have this opportunity. I never thought that was going to happen because I didn't see it.
Met this person. One of the guests we had on, Catherine Nash, shout out to Catherine, early on, that was fitness oriented, but we had her on as a podcast guest. And then we were in Florida with her getting Froyo, and then she was like, you should really have a podcast agency. You should coach podcasters.
Yeah.
And here we are years later, 55 other shows that we produce. It's wild. And this is the analogy that I use with my clients, and for the younger listeners, this might not land, but back in the day, there was, I don't know what year, maybe 1998, I think. There was a film called The Matrix. I know everyone's heard of it. And the second one was called Matrix Reloaded. And essentially, without getting into too many details, it's a computer-generated dream world, and Neo is the main superhero character, and he's flying through to save Trinity. Trinity is the love of his life. And he's flying through the Matrix so fast in this big, huge city that he's actually so fast that the buildings, the glass out of the buildings and the cars are like a vortex around him. And I actually have this picture saved because I pull it up and I talk to my clients about it, because that's what the podcast has been for us. But the point is that everyone has a through line. Everyone. Every movie has a theme. Every human has a theme to their life. They have that one train that creates the momentum of every other train. And so Kevin's is being the person he needed at his darkest moment, which he articulated one of his darker moments recently, and I unintentionally was playfully laughing. I apologize in advance, or in retrospect. Mine is maximizing my own unique potential, helping others do the same. Helping people achieve their goals and dreams is what I was always doing, even as a kid. I just didn't know I was doing it. The podcast is the vehicle that allows us to do that. The podcast for the last 6 years has been Neo flying through the Matrix, and all the stuff around it is the lifestyle and the car and Emilia and I's relationship and Kevin and Taryn, and all of the podcast was the one thing that never changed, where it was the vehicle for our purpose and our passion and our profitability that allowed all the other things to happen around it. And so that's the one train we've never stopped, and we never will stop, and that's because we know that that's the train that has brought so many of the other things. last piece here. Meeting Emilia is the best thing, hands down, that's ever happened to me. It's not close. She's the greatest gift in my life. It's genuinely something that is beyond my wildest dreams. So a lot of the things we've achieved in business, I did anticipate mathematically and believed in them a while ago. Emilia, I never knew. This is way better than I ever thought I would ever have. Now, I met Emilia when she was close friends with a friend of ours that we met through the podcast, that we met through that Muay Thai gym, that we met through mutual friends on the journey of podcasting. She was a listener of the show, and she reached out and suggested a selfless versus selfish episode. She said, can you guys do an episode on the Hyperconscious podcast about this selfish versus selfless? And this is a little side tangent, but behind the scenes, Kevin, that was the only time Kevin and I recorded an entire episode without a guest, and basically almost fought about how he didn't understand the listener. Turns out he didn't understand Emilia. And I did, even before knowing Emilia. Fast forward, she becomes the woman of my dreams, beyond my dreams, quite frankly. Now, without the podcast, would that have happened? And here's my main point. This is vulnerable for me to share. If I were to lose sight of the mission and the podcast and maximizing my own unique potential as the through line of my life, would I still get to be with Emilia? Don't let go of the one thing that brought you all the other things. And I think a lot of us make that mistake. We don't understand that it was actually being in the gym consistently that brought the self-esteem, that brought the self-confidence, that brought the dreams. And if you stop the trains that are building your self-esteem and your self-worth and your self-confidence and your self-belief, I'm telling you, everything else comes to a halt. And that's what coaching is, and this will be the last piece I share. In my coaching, all I'm doing is finding the one thing, two things, three things that are required for you to believe in yourself and for you to have high self-esteem. And because if you keep those consistent, everything else circles around it. Everything else harmonizes around it. So what's your mountain? And if you can't see the top of it like I could, maybe you can see that next peak and climb to that next little peak, and then you'll realize there's another peak. And then you climb to that peak, and then you'll realize there's another peak. And some people start at the bottom and they say, I'm going to the very top of Everest, and that's a very rare thing, but that's possible. Will Smith is a good example of that. Other people are like, I don't know where I'm at, but I know I want to climb. I know I want a meaningful life. And I know that I want to try a podcast. And then, you know what? Maybe it's not podcasting. Maybe I want to try YouTuber. I want to be a YouTuber instead. Okay. You know what? Maybe not YouTube. Maybe I'm a motivational speaker. You know what? Actually, I like coaching. And then you kind of find your way up this mountain and realize, okay, maybe that cliff I don't really want to do. Let me go over here instead. So one person looks at the top, climbs the whole damn thing, is like, holy crap, this is even better than I thought or harder than I thought or whatever. The other person is just going from peak to peak to peak to peak to peak. And eventually they look back and go, holy crap, this is so far beyond my wildest dreams.
I would argue that you would not have met Emilia if it wasn't for the podcast. Because
I wouldn't have, yeah.
Even at a deeper level, I lived in, as we talked about, I lived in New Hampshire. And my buddy, Matt, called me one day, and he's like, hey, man, I'm buying a house. I'm going to buy a 2-family house, and I'm going to renovate it. You should come live with me. I know your lease is up soon. We should do this together. Like, let's bro out. You and I living together would be awesome. Chase our dreams together. You want to do this podcast thing? You might leave your job soon. Awesome. Let's do it. My landlord conveniently, that at the same time, said, I'll let you break your lease early if you want. I'm selling the place. So I moved in with Matt in Worcester. Went to the Crunch Gym in Worcester. I met Bianca. And then Bianca and I became really, really good friends. Then I introduced Bianca to self-improvement. So I never would have known Bianca. And I never would have known about the gym. And if I didn't move to Worcester, almost none of this would have happened.
Yep.
Most likely. So,
and to give context there, and hopefully all the listeners are thinking about their own life too, Bianca is the one. Emilia, when she first saw my Instagram profile, this is back when I was fitness modeling, and she was saying to Bianca, nope, I want nothing to do with him. She didn't want another guy who was a body and not a mind. And understable. My Instagram did not best represent me at the time.
A lot of
undies photos in my modeling days. If you ever want a good laugh, you can go back. I think I took down the more risque ones. But anyways, here's my point. Bianca said, no, you don't understand. You got to listen to his mind, not look at his body. And she listened to the podcast, and that's how that happened. So thank goodness, But
Wow.
it is. I think that you'll find your person in pursuit of your calling, in pursuit of your dreams, in pursuit of your purpose. And if you don't know what those things are, keep searching. And we did an episode on that recently.
Next Level Nation, if you have not joined our private Facebook group yet, appropriately titled Next Level Nation, please do so. A group of growth-minded individuals like you who love having deep conversations, who unfortunately don't always feel like they fit in around other people. I know talking about your goals and your dreams and your aspirations and what you're working through with your ego or your insecurities, your limiting beliefs, whatever it may be, it might not fly in all circles, but it will always fly in Next Level Nation and among the communities that we have. So if you have not joined, please do. The link will be in the show notes below as always.
My amazing executive admin, Jerry Ann, shout out to Jerry Ann, she has this on her wall. Whatever you are, be a good one. That is what Next Level Nation is about. Whatever you are, be a good one. You are welcome in there. No bullies allowed. No disrespect allowed. Own your weird. If this episode resonated with you, two things. If you're one of your climbs, your mountains that you want to climb is, I've always wanted to try starting a podcast. Reach out to Kev.
Please.
Okay? It's a simple conversation. You never know what one conversation will do. I used to have a podcast, or Kevin Says YouTube channel, called Conversations Change Lives. One conversation with Kev can change your life. So take the leap of faith.
Totally free. No money. Totally free. Yeah.
Yep.
Not going to sell you anything. Let's just chat.
Kevin at nextleveluniverse.com. We adore meeting our listeners. Please reach out. If you want to start a business and that's your dream, we have a lot of podcasters who want to start and build businesses. We have a lot of business owners who want to start podcasts. But if you're either one of those, if you want to start a podcast, reach out to Kev. If you want to start a business, reach out to me. Even if you're in the very early stages. I had one person I was on the phone with, shout out to Danny, and Danny's in the very beginning. He's just in the dreaming phase. He's like, I think one day I might want to do X. I might want to coach one day. I might want to, whatever it is. Alan at nextleveluniverse.com. We'll do a free 30-minute call. Connecting with listeners is one of our favorite things. It's something we've been doing since the beginning, and we will be doing forever. So please reach out.
Tomorrow for episode number 1517. It's called Practicing Gratitude for a Reason. It's actually going to fall closer to Thanksgiving than I originally thought, but Thanksgiving is coming up. For those of you who celebrate it, we'll talk a little bit about gratitude. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Try hard to believe it before you see it. Next Level Nation.